Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television, where we keep you updated with the happenings on the paper. We're seeing that one of the stories that is making run on the paper this morning is the joy that we're seeing that Nigerians, as well as the government, is celebrating that at last the Port Harcourt refinery is functioning after so many, deadlines that has been set, and then we saw that nothing was coming to light. But finally, yesterday, the refinery started functioning, where we saw trucks as well trying to upload petrol. So we hope that this will be a step in the right direction, where we'll see other refineries will start functioning well. The program is the Dailies, as I said, and my name is Sele Elisha Dasham. I'm doing this program alongside Rachel. Good morning.
Good morning, Sele.
All right, let's go through the papers, and we will be starting with the Metric newspaper.
The first story on the paper, NLC knocks NBS on declining unemployment rate, says figures fabricated. On UEFA Champions League, Man City blew 3-goal lead as Arsenal rode Sporting. Biden confirms Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire deal, says Israel retains right to self-defense consistent with international law. Alleged 110 billion naira fraud bellow due in court today as EFCC ex-governor Bika. The big story on the paper, at last Port Harcourt refinery comes to life. The writer says focus on achievements, shun malicious attack. NNPCL tells Nigerians. Excited Tinubu tax NNPCL on reactivation of other refineries. Cheaper petrol looms due to competition between Dangote PH refineries. This is coming from NMDPRA. Tinubu heads to France for state visit to deepen bilateral ties. CBN raised interest rate to 27.50% to curb inflation, Cardoso reveals. Senate admits error in resolution in CCT's chair removal. At last, after several failed deadlines, Port Harcourt refinery finally comes to life, and we have the picture showing activities going on in the refinery. And that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, new interest rate will hurt saving account holders. This is coming from analysts. CBN raised the interest rate for the sixth time in 2024. Now 27.50%. You can start reading more detail regarding the Monetary Policy Committee, what it will look like and how it will affect people. Federal government laments loss of $1.1 billion annually to malaria. You can do well to detail in the paper. The big story related, Tinubu mandate NNPCL to revive Warri and Kaduna refineries. The writer following says as Port Harcourt refinery begins truck out of products. Operation will create jobs, boost product availability, coming from PANDEF. Calls for licensing of an artisanal refinery. You can do well to find more detail of the story in the paper. Senate considered Tinubu's request to confirm Olukaide as the COAS. You can do well to read more detail of that on page 7. That's talking about the Chief of Army Staff. We will record that the chief was dead, so we have the acting one, where Senate is considering to confirm him as the new Chief of Army Staff. More detail found on page 7. Minister says livestock sector could contribute 33 trillion naira to the economy. You can read how on page 29. Reps uphold Senate decision on sack of CCT chair Umar. Tinubu heads to France today, facilitate Atiku Abubakar on his 78th birthday, and then names 3 CCB board members. More detail on page 6. Experts raise the alarm over growing national debt, says the nation's public debt surges over 900% from 2015 to 2024. And the last story on the paper, IMBA present 971 billion naira 2025 budget Enugu Assembly. You can read that on page 7. And that's all in Daily Independent newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Airtel Nigeria gets new CEO Dinesh Balsingh. You can find details on page 2. 16-year-old Taylor Isima emerges winner of UBA Foundation National Essay Competition. CBN raises interest rate once again by 0.25% to 27.50%. Policy on marine and blue economy will chart growth in aquaculture safeguard waterways, coming from the Minister Oyetola. The big story on the paper, applause controversies greet Port Harcourt refinery resumption. 200 trucks expected to load product daily as Tinubu Hills NNPC Limited directs prompt reactivation of other refineries. Never say never, presidency hit back at Obasanjo. Defense chief identifies informants, others as key threats in counter-insurgency war. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Times, World Bank partners NYSC on corpse empowerment. You can read more detail of how it will be. Regarding 2027, PDP Group D Chief Atiku seek Southern presidential candidate. Tinubu seeks Senate confirmation of General Oluyede as the Chief of Army Staff. President Tinubu accepts state visit invitation to France. And we have regarding data breach, Governor Okwebolo orders urgent review of a dual e-governance platform. You can read detail of that in the paper. And the big story on the paper, Atiku says Governor Fubara is Moses, restorer of Rivers State glory, condemns violence against women. You can read that in the paper. President Tinubu celebrate Atiku Abubakar at 78. You can read that in the paper. And then we have a picture story where we can see the president of Rwanda over there. And then as well, we can see the president of the African School Governance over there, Professor Kingsley Charles. You can do well to get the paper, read more detail of stories of interest to you.
On New Telegraph, the big story, CUPP dismisses 3.46% GDP growth, slams NBS, says federal government guilty of statistical manipulation to create false economic growth. Report not true, reflection of current realities. A statement from NACCIMA urges urgent steps to address inflation, rising taxation, regulatory barriers. You can find details on page 3 and 8. Cardoso is saying Nigeria to exit FATF grey list by the second quarter of 2025. Says Naira reasonably stable, assures of cash availability for Uletide as MPC increases lending rate to 27.5%. CBN pegs banks minimum trade on IFMs at $100,000. You can find details on page 25. Tinubu asks Senate to confirm Oluyede as COAS. I'm still alive. Obasanjo dismisses dead rumor. Customs CG inaugurates renovated Tin Can Port Office to 2 new facilities. Ahead of 2027, PDP's presidential candidate must come from South. This is a statement from Bode George. 16-year-old Sima wins 14th UBA Foundation essay competition. Established special parliamentary outfit to tackle Lakurawa, Sheikh Gumi tells the federal government. On state creation, Ohaneze Youth Rights Southeast National Assembly members insist on a no-mass state. You can find details on page 5. Senate admits error in process taken to sack CCTA chairman as reps ask Tinubu to sack chair. Umba presents record 971 billion naira 2025 budget to state assembly. We have a study that says poor mental health tied to negative content on New Telegraph newspaper.
Newspaper where we see EFCC arrest detain ex-governor Yahya Bello over alleged fraud. You can read more detail of that. Tinubu travels again, depart for France today. 3 soldiers, 12 terrorists killed in Boko Haram attack in Borno State. Custom returned 21 stolen luxury vehicles worth 1.8 billion naira to Canada. Tinubu celebrates Atiku on his 78th birthday. The big story, fuel self-sufficiency, affordability in sight as Port Harcourt refinery powers up. Tinubu hails refinery revival, direct reactivation of others. Oil marketers welcome reopening, await the fuel pricing adjustments, detailed in the paper. Police launch all-out war against FCT one-chance criminal gangs. Federal government vows to eliminate malaria amid $1.1 billion annual loss. And we have CBN raise the interest rate to 27.50% to tackle inflation. We have the pictures to where we can see the newly elected Ondo State Governor Loki Ayedatiwa and his deputy Olayide Adelami present their certificate of election to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. The event was witnessed by the APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduji and the Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyabajiye. And that's all on First News newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, Labour OPS project higher inflation and weaker naira as interest rate has gone high again. Alleged 110 billion naira fraud bellow due in court today as ex-governor reports to EFCC. Ex-Kogi governor detained by anti-graft agency faces 16 counts. PDP NEC pro-Wike governor set for showdown over Damogun. On Forex platform, CBN set $100,000 minimum trade for banks. PH refinery, 200 trucks load daily, 150,000 barrels per day. Ellen plant dormant. You can find details on page 21. 4,449 policemen sue IG over delayed promotion. Hunted and executed, suspended Sanwo-Olu aides comments their probe call. Unpaid pensions, retirees set to occupy finance ministry. And that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On this day newspaper, the 2025 budget, IMBA present a record of 971 billion naira to Enugu House of Assembly. Crashes recurrent expenditure further to 14% at 133.1 billion naira. And then upskills capital expenditure to 837.9 billion naira. Again, prioritizes education with over 33% of budget. Ramps up IGR from 37.4 billion naira to 144.7 billion naira in 2024. More detail found in the paper. After prolonged delay, missed deadlines, Port Harcourt refinery begins operation. The jubilant Tinubu direct NNPC to reactivate Warri and Kaduna refineries. National oil companies started production with lower 1.4 million liters of petrol. Kyari say president's pressure made fate possible, discloses 70% capacity reach. NMDPRA certified fuel OK pledges support for on-streaming of other facilities. Petrol retailers declare competition begins. More detail found in the paper. Citing unrelenting inflationary risks, Apex Bank raises MPR to 27.50%. And the picture story is the Port Harcourt refinery resumes production. We can see the jubilation as well as activities ongoing there. And that's all in this day newspaper.
Vanguard newspaper, local fuel capacity now 860,000 barrels per day as PH refinery rebounds. Let's join hands to make Nigeria a producing nation, a statement from President Tinubu. GDP jobs growth at variance with reality, a statement from NECA and CUPP. Price of local rice, beans, bread, eggs soared in October, a report from the National Bureau of Statistics. And we have Kyari inspects Port Harcourt refinery. That's the caption for the picture story on the paper, and that of awards. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Sun, oil producing state kick against planned payment swap at the RMAFC, asks the court to set aside consent judgment in favor of company registered after another one has executed contract. More detail found on page 20. TUC threatened indefinite strike in states not implementing the minimum wage. On East Cam in Bayelsa, we will recall even the Nigerian Labour Congress is planning the same thing. Here we're seeing even the trade union is talking about having an indefinite strike in states not implementing minimum wage. So you can do well to read more detail of what the TUC is warning regarding the payment. Fuel-laden trucks rolled out of Port Harcourt refinery. Tinubu upbeat over refinery revival. wants Warri Kaduna facility reactivated, and I believe everybody is looking forward to those other refineries working as well. Ojuku's memorial, I won't stop pushing for Kanu's release, coming from Bianca. IPOP leader in detention because he's Igbo. You can read who said that and why he made that statement on page 20. Ex-Governor Yahya Bello turned self into EFCC over alleged fraud. Court strike out Sanwo-Olu's suit against commission. More detail found on page 4. CBN continues monetary policy tightening, raised the interest rate amid inflation. Food prices soar in October, coming from the NBS. Education get lion's share as MBA present 971 billion naira budget to Enugu Assembly. Crashes recurrent further to 14% at 133.1 billion naira. Capital expenditure raised to 837.9 billion naira. All of this regarding the budget for Enugu can be found on page 26. And that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, second year in office, Obasanjo commissions roads in Osun comments at Daily Key. Nigeria loses $1.1 billion annually to malaria crisis. Yahaya Bello, now in EFCC custody, may appear in court today. CBN raises interest rate to 25.50%, and experts are saying revalue the naira, not MPC rate increase. The big story on the paper with PH refineries revival, Tinubu set Warri Kaduna plants target for NNPC. The writer says Tinubu comments Buhari carry African Export-Import Bank. NNPC begins truck out operations of petrol, diesel, kerosene to Nigerian market. Oil marketers, industry experts loot NNPC over delivery of Port Harcourt refinery. NBS report on 3.46 GDP growth decline in unemployment, not true reflection of current realities, Naxima is insisting. And you might want to find list of defaulters on the FCTAC of all on pages 18 to 137, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
I know we've been seeing this on most of our paper. I mean, the tribulation regarding, you and I have been, I think, we're more like among the people that have been on the throat of the government regarding when are we going to see this refinery functioning. The date started flowing, okay, August went by, September went by, and then finally we're in November, and then finally it's functioning. But just like we're seeing the people, analysts as well as experts are looking at competition, because now it's going to be between the Port Harcourt refinery and the Dangote refinery. And then I'm hoping to see more competition in the market when we have Warri and Kaduna functioning. In fact, that will tell us that, you know what, the government are working, and just like we're seeing the president here saying that finally they will be able to shut the mouth of Obasanjo because he has been attacking them. But I'm also looking, you remember yesterday we were looking at certain sectors that are actually generating revenue and how that revenue is going to help us. And we made mention of trade, and I'm hoping to see that Jakarta Steel Mining start functioning as well. I'm looking forward to see some of our industry that has been shut down for a long period of time. The government should also look in that direction as well. Let's not just concentrate on oil alone, but there are other sectors that also need the attention of the government, and I'm hoping that we'll have, bodies rallying around to see that, we also need all of these places. I mean, yesterday we saw the fact that some of these refineries might be privatized, but then I'm looking forward to say, regardless of who controls it, even though we know there are certain sectors we said that it's supposed to be the government so that it could help its people, but then I'm looking forward to seeing other sectors as well, getting this wake up the same way we're seeing our oil getting all of this attention.
So a mixed economies always thrive as long as the government knows what they're doing. We have countries with economy that are world power and it's actually a mixed economy. And I think when we come to Nigeria, the problem is always leadership. We cannot overemphasize on certain things. Is there anything wrong with our refineries being privatized? No, as long as the government have set certain templates and structures and plan and bodies to govern and cover and follow due procedures, I think we are going to be fine. Does it show failure at the ends of the ends of the government? Of course it does, but either way, if that is a solution, then let the government make sure that it is a solution that will last us a very, very long, forever, as long as Nigeria exists and all of that. Yes, it is good news. At the same time, we're seeing the NBS being, rather, we have NECA and other CUPP coming out and saying, no, these reports from the NBS is false. Yes. On a lot of level, we can see the reality in the market is different. What are the outcome of the prices? And recently, just in the concluded MPC meeting that happened on Monday, we are saying that the MPR has gone high again. It means the Central Bank of Nigeria is not giving up on the tightening of the monetary policies. And then it means that inflation is still going high as it is. And then there is going to be more businesses suffering, and even private. We're seeing that if you are operating a saving account whatsoever you have kept with these policies right now in place, that your money is going to lose its value and all of that, and even the currency as against the dollar and all of that. This is our reality. Now the concern for me is now concerning these refineries, as hopeful as it might look. I know it's a starting point, but it is not enough. We're seeing President Bola Tinubu saying, you know what, Warri Refinery and Kaduna Refinery needs to be up also. And it has been a work in process. This didn't start with Tinubu, of course, and that is why we can see him giving kudos to President Buhari, former President Buhari, and also Mele Kyari, because this started with them. So if he is completing or continuing and then making sure that it actualized under his administration now, the one that he can take credit for, if we're looking from now to 2027, that eventually the Warri or the Kaduna refinery is in full speed and up to date. Because before we get to the level in which having our refineries save us in regarding oil, the price of the fuel pump price, it has to grow to the capacity where it is meeting our need. It doesn't stop at meeting our needs. It has to be exported out of the country, and in Naira. That is when we will probably see that our currency can start. But as for now, it's good news for what it is. There might be competition. I know that we have organizations being optimistic that it might affect the price of petrol in the market. It won't be that significant. It's not going to be anything significant. So far, so good. This is a long run thing, and except due process are followed and the work that is needed is put in, it might not even give us that kind of success, except or only if the right thing is being done regarding the oil market in the country. But yes, it is an exciting one, because we are tired of the opening of the reopening of the PH refinery. The postponement was becoming too tiring, and it's good that finally this is out of the way, and then the administration can focus on other refineries.
Well, we're taking baby steps regarding that, so let's hope that we'll start working on our 2 legs soon regarding all of this. Well, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper, where we have Umba ramps up IGR from 37.4 billion naira to 144.7 billion naira, present 971 billion naira as the 2025 budget to Enugu Assembly. You can read more detail on the front page and on page 4. Cautious optimism over cheaper fuel as PH refinery creates rivalry. Can read what it's saying here, where we see the NNPC says the refinery will produce single-run gasoline, which will thereafter be bleached into 1.4 million liters of PMS. It will produce 9,000 liters of kerosene, 1.5 million liters of diesel, 2.1 million liters of low poor fuel oil, and then the daily output therefore stands at 5.9 million liters. By implication, NNPC will only be meeting about 2.8% of the local demand of PMS in the country. So they're beginning to break down, even though, just like we said, this is baby steps, but we hope that eventually they will start generating more, in terms of oil coming out from this refinery. Now we're seeing that the Port Harcourt refinery timeline starting from 2015, 2017, up till this time, various people working toward making sure that, you know what, this PH refinery is up and doing. So it has been a long time coming, and finally it's now working. EFCC bellows men differ as anti-graft agency detained ex-governor. While the Ed will urge states to monetize assets to drive investment revenue, you can read that on page 3. Tinubu departs Abuja on state visit to France, you can read that on page 3. Amid soaring food price, Ayedatiwa backs Tinubu economic policy. Some people want to die, say Obasanjo. Some people want to die, say Obasanjo. Maybe this is in regard to the rumor going around that he's dead. You can read details of that on page 7. Private sector groans as CBN raised the interest rate to 27.5%. Bank lost 53.4 billion naira to fraud in 9 months as attack rise by 65%. More detail found in the paper, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, CBN tightens interest rate to curb persistent price surge. Trending police to impound vehicles without number plates. On numbers, 85.6% of Nigeria's working class is self-employed, report from NBS. Mbak crashes recurrent expenditure to 14%, presents 971 billion naira budget. Education gets 33.2% for a second year. I mean, this is very ambitious of Governor Mbak, in as much as you went from as much as just 37, a little bit above that, billion to over 144 billion as in revenue. 971 is very ambitious. I'm hoping to see how he's going to pull this off. That is the funding of this budget for 2025. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 7. I shared special moments with Atiku in APC segment from President. The big stories on terrorism, like Father, President Igno takes battle to Lake Chad, joins troops to launch weeks of offensive against Boko Haram, and insists attack on Bohana, Berkaram won't happen again. Tinubu off to France for state visit. After 20 years, PH refinery commences operation. Yahaya Bello submits self to EFCC ahead of arraignment. You can find details on page 6. AMGA 2024 Armed Forces dominates shooting and tennis. You can find details on page 158, and that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
Alright, before we go further with the paper review, we'd love to take a time out just to hear your own inputs regarding what do you feel concerning the reopening of the PH refinery after 20 years of back and forth postponement of the reopening, and finally yesterday it was reopened. And as well as what you feel about the budget of Enugu State Governor. We're seeing that so many governors are beginning to submit their budget for 2025, so we'd love to have your inputs of what you feel should be the ratio apportioned to various sectors on the budget. So when we come back, we will continue this paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories that are making it the rounds on our papers. We're seeing that the president will be leaving the country to France on a visit, as well as we're seeing that the monetary policy has been tightened. We're seeing that the MPC has increased the interest rate to 27.50%, and then we're seeing that what does that mean for the value of our money. And then as well, we are looking at, various submission of the budget. We're seeing that Enugu governors as well submitted his 971 billion naira budget for 2025, and he's giving about over 33% to education, the second year again. So we are looking forward to seeing more submission of budget by our governors, and then we hope that you can please as well drop your comment, what you feel about it, as well as the reopening of the PH refinery. I still have Rachel with me. Thank you, Rachel.
No.
All right, let's take a look at Blueprint newspaper. Tinubu honors Macron's invitation for state visit to France. You can read that on page 4. Federal government, KACC, IMA, Exo, Dangote over sponsorship of Kano Fair. You can read that on page 11. And on sports, 2 years after, Wike reward FCT athletes' performance at sports festival. The return of Port Harcourt refinery, new era of energy independence coming from Kyari, alienated Tinubu, others revival of Warri and Kaduna plants. Nigerians, Ariwa youth storm up federal government and the NNPCL. Regarding corruption trial, finally Yahaya Bello surrenders, appears in court today. Giving everyone a sense of belonging will reduce insecurity, coming from the Chief of Defense Staff, where the writer says non-kinetic approach working better to counter insurgents. You can read detail of that in the paper. 40% of African countries in debt web as servicing costs. Mixed reactions as CBN hike interest rate. Tinubu recognizes Atiku's public service. And that's all on the Blueprint newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, petrol rolls out again from Port Harcourt refinery 5 years after. This is a milestone. Trill Tinubu orders quick action on Warri and Kaduna refineries. Raising interest rate to 27.5% will curb inflation, ensure stability. Coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria, MPC retains other monetary parameters. EFCC may take ex-Governor Bello to court in Abuja today. Anti-graft agency uncovers 16,800 rebacked 50 kg federal government rice palliative. You can find details on page 6. No wonder a lot of people
cannot have access to it.
Access to it. We're seeing over 16,800 rebacked 50 kg federal government rice palliative missing, obviously. You can find details on page 6, and that's all news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, let's see what's happening in the world of business, where we have CBN stays hawkish as food petrol prices remain high. External reserve rise to $40.88 billion. Rate hikes seen slowing down growth. You can read more detail in the paper. Banks capital raise, new listing push stock deals to 17-year high. And then Port Harcourt refinery restarts, seeing easing FX pressure with 150,000 barrel per day complex to begin mid-2025. Tinubu urges Warri and Kaduna refinery to restart. You can start reading that in the paper. And we have Kuwait pumps $33 billion oil 1 year as Nigeria drags. More detail found on page 20. We have this picture story on the front page. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of the story that is of interest to you.
On Punch Sport Extra, Slots Army holders clash at Anfield. United eye Boniface as goal carriers alternative. You can find details on page 7. Now Mudugu is explaining why he dropped a shoulder for France tie. Gallas to Arsenal replaced Havertz with Osimhen. Red still in talks with Salah's agent, the young frustrating backer. You can find details on page 3. Devils face competition from Nkunku. Ballon d'Or, Namibian journalist fires back at Perez. City won't trigger the lap clause in January. The big story is walking away. NPFL coaches who have given up in the heat of 2024-2025 season. And we have Nigeria maintain perfect run in World Cup qualifiers. Banda wins BBC Women's Footballer Award. Joshua Limited are more skilled, Fury is saying. You can find details of his segment on page 2, and that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
On the metric sport, we have Atlanta desperate to keep Lukman. You can read more detail of that. I accepted half of my salary with Super Eagles to coach Bennett. This is coming from Roy. And then on the ULC, Man City Blues 3-goal lead as Arsenal road Sporting. And then we have Liverpool receive major injury boost ahead of Real Madrid cash. You can find detail in the paper. We have a table for the Premier League, match, and then La Liga table as well. This was as of yesterday, so you can draw to see those who are leading. And that's all the metric sport newspaper.
On Sporting Sun, the big story, Atlanta rejects PSG, Real Madrid, Man United offers for Lukman. Nigerian ranked as best performing player in Serie A. Kane blames Messi, Ronaldo for number 9 shortage. Saudi club ready 85 million euros yearly offer for Salah. Neymar had 200,000 euros bizarre clause in PSG contract. Give Orban on radar of Stuttgart. You can find details on page 6. Arsenal Liverpool to offer £50 million for Zubimendi. Dele Alli suffers injury setback. Namibian Ballon d'Or voter blasts frustrated Perez. Can find details on page 3. Man United won't sign Boniface in January. This is a statement from Plattenberg. Buying to break bank for rights. You can find details inside the paper. Paul Pogba blackmail trial opens in Paris. Bellingham named La Liga Player of the Year. Details can be found at the back page. Amorim stays at luxury £4,000 a night hotel. I hope that the management finds housing for him soon. Mayweather laughs at Jake Paul's ambitions against Alvarez. You can find details at the back page. And that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
Well, that's how far we can go on this program this morning. Thank you to all our viewers and all who make this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow. So please do have a lovely day ahead.